Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Somewhere between science and superstition.
We have such sights to show you.
Strange Eons. Welcome to Strange Aeons Radio. That's Eric over there.
Hello.
That is Vanessa over there.
Hello.
I'm Kelly. Lights are flickering. We have no idea how long we'll have power.
Who is here? What is your name? Are you angry? Yes or no?
You guys, a couple days ago, I sent you a news report that featured my old apartment building, which was caught up in a kitchen grease fire of some kind.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, I was really sad when you moved away, but rightly so.
Yes.
And now I'm like, thank God you got it out of there.
Well, first of all, can you imagine trying to record these episodes in the 90-degree heat that we've been having lately? Yeah,
that'd be pretty bad.
It was funny that photo. There's a photo in there going, man, that looks just like the one I took of you guys taking the
They obviously, the fire department had to get somebody down off of the roof in the same space that we lowered my couch from.
It can be done.
Yep.
Yeah, so the old Strange Aeons Radio office is probably no more. I couldn't tell what unit caught on fire up there.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping that it would be bad enough to destroy the whole building and then get the soup Nazi guy out of there, but he's still operating. So
it didn't look like it didn't report like there was a lot of damage or anything. Sounds like it was more of a grease fire.
They said they contained it to the unit.
Yeah.
And it probably was not even my unit if they had to get somebody off of the roof, because the way my unit was there, everybody else would have been able to get off since mine was the very last one. So it had to be the unit upstairs, after my unit or before my unit.
Took them through one of those.
Let's talk more about my unit.
Those heavy, sturdy windows you had. Take somebody through those.
It's crazy though, because that means they wouldn't have been able to get through the exit, which is literally just a stairway right outside that door.
Oh, well, I mean, I believe we all talked about, boy, I hope there's never a fire up here because there's one way out.
Yeah.
There's
and it's an ankle breaker.
Yeah. Jeez. Woof.
In other news, you guys, I finished a first draft of my very first novel.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And, I then took about a week off of it and I've gone into rewrites. And then after that, I'll feel comfortable giving it to my editor, and then after that, it will most likely be put out by Strange Aeons Publishing because I have design ideas that I want to incorporate that probably another publisher won't. But, look for it in 2024.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, the novella sold out immediately. It was limited to 54 copies because I'm 54. Did you guys get it? And it basically went to friends and family immediately. So.
Yeah.
So you won't be able to order that on the website written by Cale Young, but there are still very, very few copies of Infernal Combustion on there and copies of the screenplays I wrote years ago and stuff like that. So everybody who has signed up for my subscription letter, I promise that someday I will actually write one.
Aw, that's a nice thought.
Yeah, and it'll all just be hey, thanks for signing up. I promise not to bombard your mailbox with bullshit.
That's right.
Definitely true.
It's pretty easy not to do it when you never send anything.
You guys, I have watched some shit.
Oh, snap.
I watched Box Barcelona.
Oh, Lord.
Oh my gosh. Really?
Yeah.
Did you watch the first Bird Box?
I did watch the first Bird Box. I like the first Bird Box.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved that book when it first came out. So I was really happy to see who was the actress?
I can't remember. Oh,
Sandra
Bullock, wasn't it? Yeah. I was really happy to see her grab hold of that and turn it into the juggernaut it was for Netflix. Yeah. Bird Box Barcelona is not a sequel. It is a sidequel.
Oh, there you go.
It takes place in Barcelona, as you might expect. And there's a lot in it that I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's cool. But overall, it just didn't have the the sense of dread that first movie had. And I know a lot of people didn't like that movie. I think it's really easy to slag on Sandra Bullock in a horror film, but I thought it was really effective. And this just kind of misses that and becomes a generic horror film. But the one cool idea is that the lead guy has seen the creatures that drive everybody mad.
Yeah.
And instead of driving them mad, he thinks that they are angels.
Mm-hmm.
And he is trying to get other people to take their blindfolds off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, this is an interesting premise.
Huh.
It just doesn't nail that.
I didn't read the second Bird Box book for whatever reason. Have you?
I have not. Mallory, I have not, but since that's the name of the lead character, I assume it is a direct sequel to the book. Yeah. Anyway, it's on Netflix. Your mileage may vary. Bird Box Barcelona.
Cool.
Nice. Well, I saw the ending of Secret Invasion. Made my way through
I heard it was thrillingly nothing.
It was just an ending. I mean, like, I guess it wraps it up, but it's just that whole show was so underwhelming to me in every way. Even the, like, big bad final fight, you're like, oh, okay, that's fine, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even tell anymore if I don't like something because it's bad or because I'm tired of superheroes.
It's really hard to tell. Although I will say, when I was watching Barbie, and the guy who's like Ken's like hangout buddy, who like Ken keeps handing stuff to,
the Marvel film.
Yeah, he's the Secret Invasion lead guy.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's the lead bad guy in it. So I was like, wow, I get to watch him like dance and do like little shoe moves in Barbie. And then I'm like, my brain cannot compute you, sir. This is very strange.
Well, that is part of the frustration of Secret Invasion is everybody in it is a really good actor.
True. Oh my God.
And you're just like, I really want something to be happening here that means anything. I heard it had, as a series, it had a $212 million budget.
I'm sure. There's a lot of CGI. They film a lot in London, and I think a little bit in Russia or some adjacent Soviet space.
Probably not. We're not.
It's mostly London.
We're not on great terms with Russia right now, but I heard it was mostly Nova Scotia.
I mean, maybe the outside.
No, I mean, maybe it's listed as filmed in Nova Scotia.
It's also listed as filmed in London. And every street in Russia, I was like, I know that street. I puked in that alley.
Okay.
So I was like, wow, a Russian pub sure looks like a British pub, but with Russian posters on the side. Weird. Don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I mean, there was one episode in it that I thought things were ramping up, and then it just, I don't know.
No.
I feel bad for Samuel Jackson. I feel bad for, who's the guy who plays Rhodey?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember the actor's name.
Because I feel like they kind of did him wrong in this show, too.
Olivia Colman, man, she just rocks
now,
this entire
which
show.
Character is she?
She's the British, operative.
Oh, she's the older woman who is in on everything. Yes. I mean, I feel bad for her because she is obviously the shining star of this show, and it is a shit show.
It's a shit show, but she has such fun. I mean, I think she's played such a huge array of roles in the last few years, and it's kind of fun to see her let loose to an extent. As
little as I'm looking forward to other big budget Marvel movies right now, I hope that her character gets I hope that she is rewarded for her performance with a bigger part in a big movie.
I 100% agree. The only thing I'm really not looking forward to is we're going to have Echo come out. We're going to have Agatha Harkness come out. And I just am like, I don't care about these characters in that scope. I don't want to see a whole TV show about these characters. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to that. So I'm really starting to dread the oncoming slew of Marvel shows.
Daredevil, which I love, it was like a 12-part series coming up or something. And I was like, it didn't need to be 12 parts.
Yeah. Well, did you see the thing where I don't know if it was the CEO or one of the executives at Disney said, we kind of screwed up. We have done way too much Star Wars and Marvel, and we need to pull back and do less.
Yeah.
Like, will you though? Or you just got so much in the pipeline that you...
I think there's so much in the pipeline. They probably have to wrap up what they've got because it's probably now intricately woven into the greater Marvel universe.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't even remember the Kang. Like, by the time we get to any kind of Kang fight, it's going to be like 4 years from now. So irritating.
Right. We've got Daredevil coming up in season 2 of Loki, which
That
I
should
liked
be
Loki a
fun.
lot.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but this fatigue is real. And I think that the numbers, the viewing numbers are showing that people are a little tired of this stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's true.
Well, I'm far from that stuff then. So, we had Kim on the show and her group that she started, I forgot, she said like 10 years ago or something, of the 100 Days of Horror began recently.
I was really hoping you'd get into this torture you've been putting
And I
yourself through.
I decided to not reward myself and start off. I'd already seen Children of the Corn, the 1, so I did not watch that. So I started with Children of the Corn 2.
Yeah.
I have now watched almost all. There's one that I had to order because, we live where we do. So I get it from Scarecrow, which is currently not available. I think it's like kind of a made-for-TV one, like 2009, I think is when it came out. But I've watched pretty much all of them now, except for that one. And I thought 3 is kind of cool. The one where they go to the city.
Yeah.
One of
Urban
the more
Harvest.
Yes, one of the exactly one of the more successful. Let's go to the city kind of things, but it didn't annoy me as much as Hellraiser, probably because I didn't really like the original Children of the Corn that much. I even read the short story again from Stephen King.
Wow. And you realized, wow, they have really milked a lot out of this 6-page story.
And they really did. But, oh man, it's like the fun stupidity of the 6, where it's got the return of Isaac, and he's been in a coma for a couple decades, and he's got contact lenses. And they start every scene with him opening his eyes on a super close-up so you can see them every time he opens his eyes. Like, I don't care how blind he is, man. Take those things out for his close-ups in the coma.
Right.
And that's how much is going on in the movie of 6, that you focus on that so much.
Oh my
You know what,
God.
though? They did what I love. That was Children of the Corn 666,
Yes,
right?
yes, it was.
Yeah. Use that opportunity.
Yeah, it was not great. And one of the better ones, it's not a great Children of the Corn movie, but Gulager, the guy from the Project Greenlight movie who did Feast, directs one of them. I don't remember if it was 7 or 8. But some of the best acting in the series. Nice acting, well shot. It hinges more on a family drama a little bit. The whole story is that a woman who is, the Children of the Corn person that always shows up in one of these movies is trying to escape it with her kid and eventually has to face it. But it's decent. It's not we're talking degrees here,
Right.
but it's worth watching more than most of the sequels, partially because he's good with a camera. There are some really neat shots in this, and the look of the film is easily one of the best in the series. But I don't remember which one that is.
Have you made it to the latest, prequel?
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, I didn't start with 2. I actually started with that because it was on the Shudder Top Rocker thing.
Right.
And so I watched that, and I don't remember much about it at all. It's not good.
Not very good. They've got the monster at the end. You at least get to see He Who Walks Behind the Rose. I remember when that got announced, or maybe even when a trailer came out or something like that. I'm on Stephen King face group pages and all this stuff. And I had said, well, this looks horrible, but what do we expect out of a Children of the Corn film?
Yeah.
And the admin on the page was just like, have you seen the movie yet? Well, then how can you say that it's going to be horrible?
Oh my God.
And I was like, are we defending Children of the Corn as a franchise? What have we come to? I feel like I'm only making this based on every other movie in the series.
Exactly, yes. You've got a good track record to pull at the idea that this may not be very good. And guess what? It really wasn't.
I think I quit the page after that. Like,
fair.
okay, sorry, I didn't realize. I didn't realize that I was talking to Stephen King here.
So yeah, I would not. I'm looking forward to. My first foray after, though, was not a good suggestion. I watched Alligator 2.
Oh, no.
That's all that need to be said about that.
I
And
think
what
I
else?
own it.
It's quite bad.
It's horrible.
But have you seen Alligator?
Yeah, Alligator's
fucking
fun.
awesome.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. I thought, well, maybe the sequel will be at least fun. No, it's just dirt dumb.
Oh.
God, man.
Dirt
Anyways,
dumb.
so what else have you seen, Kelly?
I've seen a couple of things, but I think what I'm going to talk about is something called 1982 Greatest Geek Year Ever. Are you watching this?
Huh.
It is a series on, I think it's on, I always want to call it WB. What is the
CW?
CW? Yeah.
Okay.
It's a weekly show that's been on, hour-long show, which means it's whatever, 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
And all they are doing is talking about 1982 in pop culture.
Wow.
And you start realizing, boy, what a great fucking year 1982 was. In fact, I was thinking, for my next subgenre pick, I'm going to be like 1982. And they just go through the movies, of course, are big ones, The Thing, E.T., all of these movies that are huge. But then they start going into comic books and what was happening in comic books, video games, and video game systems and all this. And it's, for nerds of our age, it is a really fun little show.
To check that out. Sort of like that podcast that was on for a while till the guys
80s,
realized,
80s all over or something like that.
80s all over. There's two guys and they were watching every movie theatrically released. I think they did by month
per year.
Whoa, that's
and eventually
so cool.
I don't even know if they
got
made
to
it to
85.
82.
I think.
They
No,
did
they
get
got to
that far.
85, yeah.
They're like, I need a life again. So we're doing other things. It was a really fun show.
I wish they had taken up a Patreon or something for that. I would have paid $10 a month. I give them some reason to keep going because it was a massive amount of research, but it was so interesting. And I would just be jotting down titles.
Yeah, they were really, it was really, really good.
Oh, yeah. So speaking of spending massive amounts of time on something, I've been listening to a podcast series that I am now on the final episode of. Have you guys ever heard of Dan Carlin? He does a lot of historical podcasts.
The name sounds familiar.
I'm not familiar.
He, so he's a bit of a historian. I think he was a teacher as well. He's got a podcast called Supernova in the East. Every episode is like 5 hours long. And it's a real deep dive into what was happening in the war in the Pacific during World War II. And holy shit, like that was a fucked up war. I thought the World War I in the mud was fucked up. I thought World War II in the camps was fucked up. I thought Normandy was fucked up. No. Normandy was like a play school day compared to some of the stuff happening out.
I remember him from this, Hardcore History.
Hardcore History, yeah. Yep.
And I'd heard him before. Jesus, wow.
Take this in the spirit it's intended, Vanessa. I didn't take you as a big World War II nut.
No, I mean, I'm interested in things.
Sure. It's just that I don't remember you ever talking about
Not once.
I took a lot of history classes.
Listening to 5-hour episodes about it.
Well, I think that it really helps, like, presentation.
He is really good.
Yeah, I'm not a nut for anything unless it is presented in an interesting way. And when somebody else is passionate and they're telling me something in a way that I can visualize and it's taking me on a journey and it's taking me through a story and it's not just like names and dates and memorization, like, oh my God, I've been very, very hooked on this thing.
Yeah. Well, that's like, I mean, granted, we're some more of our world, but that Secret History of Hollywood was just so brilliantly.
Yeah, there were a couple of 5-hour episodes now too. Yeah. I'm putting this on my list. This sounds like something I would really be interested in.
And he does not hold back though. So if you don't want to know about shit,
how awful things were.
how awful things were, then do not listen.
Yes.
But
Pretty
if
awful.
you're curious about something that I really did not think much about at all, I was always like, why did we blow up Japan? I never really understood that. You understand. By the time you're like 30 hours in, you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. And even watching Oppenheimer, I was sort of like, okay, yeah, the war was done, but the war was never going to be done for Japan.
Right.
Yeah.
So watching it with that context of literally every man, woman, and child in Japan was told to defend and or kill themselves to make sure no one set foot on soil, that was where they were at in their headspace. So it's kind of, I don't know. Anyways, there's so much more to this. There's so much more to this. But yeah, I'm coming up on the end of it, and I'm excited.
Oh.
I watched a movie called Quicksand.
It's moving swiftly on.
On Shudder.
Is this the one with the married couple
Yeah.
that gets stuck? Okay, how is that?
It's fine. It suffers from one thing that lazy writers do, I think, a little too much of. That, here's a crazy idea. Here's a couple, they're going together to do something, and they still like each other. Let's try that for a change.
Oh God, never.
But of course, they hate each other. They hate each other so much that by the time they get to the quicksand, I'm like, she's just going to push him underneath and be done with it. There's no way that this couple is going to come together and be happy again, but that's sort of what they do. If they'd been a happy couple from the beginning and got into that quicksand and were suffering about how much they didn't want to see their loved one die,
yeah.
it would have been a much better film.
Interesting.
But as it is, it's fun. It's stupid. It's exactly what it is. It takes no turns. It takes no twists. It's two people go into the woods, go where they're told not to go, fall in quicksand, and try to figure out how to get out.
Is it slow?
Not particularly,
Is it
but it's
granular?
like 80 minutes long or something. So
Sorry.
yeah, it's like,
Does it move like quicksand?
yeah.
As a lazy writer, I've used that trope before. So I think that there's something to be said about we've all been on a trip with a loved one, and by the end of it, you hate each other. So if something was to come along,
Have we?
not me. My girlfriends have all been
I always
amazing.
loved you by the end.
Every single one.
And that works, but when you do that with a couple that hates each other,
Yeah.
you need to provide a sliver or two in the beginning where you go, okay, they're full of shit. They
But
sort of still
together?
care about each
Why
other.
are they there together? Yeah.
Well, they're there for a business thing, and it's really,
But they don't have to walk together. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you really dislike somebody to the
Mhm.
extent that people often do, right? I totally see your point. Like you got to show that there's some reason, something that causes them to care about each other on any level.
yeah, other than, obviously by the end of this movie, they're going to care about each other again because we all know that's what these movies do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
If they hate each other that much, I'm assuming this quicksand is not, at the convention center or whatever. They're there for
Right. No,
business.
they go out.
So why would
exploring.
they decide to do something that's,
Well, I'm a man. I'm not going to let you go out alone into danger.
Oh, is that what he said?
God.
Yeah, that's part of what it is.
I thought you were about to say, oh, well, they were going to have angry sex out there or something.
No.
all right, I'm back.
Yeah, hey, yeah, that would have been,
For the
again.
man who loves the whole movie.
See, again, that would have at least
The
provided
quicksand sex movie.
a sliver that they actually still like each other,
Yeah.
that they'd be willing to go out and.
That's exactly what I'm
But
saying.
there's nothing. They hate each other so much through the beginning stuff, and they're so nasty to each other. I'm just like, that really was my first thought. Oh, she's just going to push his ass under the sand and be done with it.
Sometimes I wonder if that could be lazy writing, or that could be people who haven't experienced certain kinds of relationships, and so they're
Could
just
be, yeah.
broad strokes. It's like when you write about cancer, but you've never experienced any format of it, and you're like,
Right.
I don't know, cancer. Like,
Yep, that's
yeah,
Cancer is bad.
bad.
There you go.
Everyone cries.
What's the film look like?
It looks fine.
Yeah?
It's got a decent budget.
And then, because I assume a quicksand prop is an expensive thing, you've got a big, huge tank full of dry sand or wet sand or.
It looks more like mud.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a giant mud pool.
Okay. All of my Quicksand experience comes from Gilligan's Island.
Same.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, wow, that is scary looking.
Yes.
It looks just like sand.
And Princess Bride.
Right. Right. Well, okay. How about we take a little break? We can all reaffirm how much we actually do love each other.
It's
This
true.
is why we have come together for
It's
this,
so
even though
true.
we argue constantly. And then when we come back, we're talking Vincent Price.
Hello, I'm Vincent Price. For many years now, mankind and his offspring have been searching for an alternative to peanut butter and jelly. After employing the latest methods in technology, the Peter Paul Candy Company has found the alternative to peanut butter and jelly. Peanut butter with no jelly. Pure, creamy peanut butter dotted with Crispies, covered with pure milk chocolate, but no jelly. I'm sure you're as pleased as I am.
Hello?
Let's see who's called the Strange Aeons Radio hotline.
Hey there, guys. Mary Dick Moss. Just a quick call to tell Eric, please, the man's name is Michele Soavi, not Michael SUV or whatever you've been saying. It hurts my soul. Please, help me. Okay, goodbye.
If you'd like to call the Strange Aeons Radio hotline, dial 253-237-4266.
Nobody hangs up on me.
And we're back. Okay, guys, this was my subgenre pick, and I wanted to see more Vincent Price movies. I realized that I love Vincent Price and everything I've seen him in, and I haven't seen him in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Ooh.
He did a lot.
So let me put 10 minutes on the buzzer. And what I chose was a film I had never heard of, which was the point of this,
Yeah.
from 1987 called From a Whisper to a Scream.
Welcome to Oldfield. Oldfield has a long history of violence and murder.
It's as though the very foundation of this place was human suffering.
I'm too old for nightmares.
One thing I've learned, my dear, is that one is never too old for nightmares.
Here in a small American town, the horrors of the past have come alive in the present. From the grave to the swamp. From the carnival.
Oh my God, what's happening to me?
To the fields. From a whisper to a scream. Vincent Price, Susan Terrell, Cameron Mitchell, Rosalind Cash, Clu Gulager. The eyes of Oldfield are upon them.
How do you stay away from it?
How do you know that I did?
From a whisper to a scream.
Either of you guys seen this one?
No.
No.
Okay.
I do not know.
Budget of $1.1 million. Box office of $1.3 million.
Oh.
No Rotten Tomatoes critic score, but the audience gives it 34%. It was directed by Jeff Burr, who has 29 credits, and he is clearly a horror director. He directed Stepfather 2. He directed Leatherface, a Chainsaw sequel. He directed Pumpkinhead 2.
Oh, jeez.
Puppet Master 4 and 5. You can see where this guy is going. He's the guy you call to direct the sequel.
Apparently.
written by Jeff Burr and C. Courtney Joyner, who I have spoken about a couple of times on this podcast. He has 30 writing credits, including Prison, a film from this same year, which is excellent. He also wrote Class of 1999, Dr. Mordred, which I spoke of, and just a ton of Full Moon pictures. And it stars Vincent Price. 211 credits, including The Great Mouse Detective, The Strange Case of Alice Cooper, which I just watched recently on Tubi, and Last Man on Earth, which is still the best of the I Am Legend adaptations. Eric, you spoke of, was it John Gulager who directed? Yeah. Well, this stars Clu Gulager, his father. 165 credits, including the Feast trilogy.
Yes.
The Hidden, and of course, probably most known and loved from Return of the Living Dead. It also stars Terry Kaiser, who has 165 credits as well. Tons of TV and movies, including Surf 2, the end of the trilogy, which is a movie I just watched this year. And I went on an Eddie Deason thing, and
amazing.
He's there. Friday the 13th, Part 7. And of course, he is Bernie in the Weekend at Bernie movies.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what I recognize him from. It also stars Harry Caesar, Rosalind Cash, Cameron Mitchell, and Susan Terrell. This is an anthology, so I have a soft spot for anthologies. Vincent Price stars as the narrator in the prologue and the wraparound story. His name is Julian White, and at the beginning of the film, we find out that his niece has just been publicly executed, electrocuted for murdering her husband, and there is a journalist who has hunted Julian down to get his thoughts on the matter. The journalist, I can't remember her name, but she is there basically, she wants to get like, he's a reclusive kind of guy, and she wants to get, any words on your niece being executed. And he tells her it's just another little piece of the evil of the town they are in, which is called Oldfield. And she says, they might have killed her, but they haven't stopped the evil. And she's like, oh, do tell. And so he says, here we go. I'm going to tell you 4 stories about Oldfield. The first of the stories is set in present day, and it is about an awkward and lonely grocer named Stanley who takes care of his ailing sister. Neither of these people are young, and he's bathing her and completely taking care of her, and she seems awful to take care of, but he is also awful to her. So it's a wash, I guess, especially when he's bathing her. Stanley asks his boss out on a date, and she accepts for some reason, even though A, she's his boss, and 2, she's young and attractive, and he is not, and C, she's not really interested in him, so it is apparently only so that they can tell the story of him murdering her at the end of the date because he has tried to kiss her and she declines. And then at the mortuary, before she is buried, he fucks her corpse in the coffin.
Classy.
Good times.
Oh, yay.
And 9 months later, they make sure to say 9 months later on the card. God. I think you know where this is going on. He murders his sister in a fit of rage in the bathtub. Coincidentally, on the date that his zombie mutant offspring breaks out of its dead mother's grave and decides to hunt him down in the house.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Is it like a baby?
It's like a puppet baby.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Puppet baby.
So the second story is set in the 1950s and follows a criminal who's on the run from gangsters. And then he finds another man living in the swamp, but it turns out that this man has been alive for hundreds of years. So he makes the man give him the elixir of immortality. And then he treats that guy very poorly. And when he, after he has drank the elixir of immortality, is horribly dismembered at the end, we find out from the doctor, he's like, I'm not sure why he's still alive, but I can guarantee you he is in eternal agony.
Well, thanks, Doc.
The third story, then, so we're going back chronologically through the stories of this town. So the third story has a Lovecraft reference in name only. It is about a guy who works at Lovecraft's Traveling Amusements in the 1930s, which is a freak show of sorts, and it's coming through Oldfield. And this guy is the freak who chews on glass and razor blades, screws and nails, all tons of stuff. But when he falls in love with a young girl from the town, the head of the carnival, who is this very evil old lady who's wanted him for herself, right? She curses him. And so whenever he touches the woman that he's fallen in love with sexually, the things that he has ingested over the years start poking out of his skin to injure her. It's got a great explosion of glass and nails and other sharp stuff at the end. And I would have to say this is by far my favorite of the stories. And the woman he's in love with ends up traveling with the circus now as the human pincushion. Oh. So I gave that one away, but it's definitely worth watching this movie just for this story. The fourth story is now set in the Civil War, so it's got to be the 1860s sometime. And a group of Union soldiers are set upon by a group of maniacal evil children that turn out to be the orphans of Confederate soldiers. And then as they hunt these soldiers down, the killing of the Union soldiers acts as the official inauguration of the town of Oldfield. After the final story, Julian is killed by the reporter.
Sure.
Who reveals that she corresponded via letter with his niece while she was in prison. And in her letters, the niece claimed her uncle poisoned her mind with his beliefs that Oldfield is a place full of evil, which itself brought on her desires for murder. So the reporter is actually there to avenge the niece, and she stabs Julian in the throat with a switchblade. But before dying, he utters his last words, which I love. Welcome to Oldfield.
That's pretty right.
Tagline, welcome to Oldfield. Stop in for a night of pure terror.
All right.
Trivia. So this movie is pretty gory and sexual and all this stuff.
What year was this again?
1987.
Okay.
So I was really surprised to see that Vincent Price was in this.
Yeah, no kidding.
Vincent Price later expressed a strong dislike for the film in a letter written to German actor and puppeteer Gerd J. Pohl. Price said that his agent misrepresented it and Price was trapped in it. His scenes were shot in 2 days. However, the director says something different. He says in order to secure Vincent Price for the role of Julian White, he went in person to Price's house with a bottle of wine, aware that Price was a wine connoisseur, and he gave him the script in person. Burr would later recall, we came bearing gifts, and wouldn't you know, he opened the door himself when we knocked. It was a flurry of, gee, Mr. Price, we're fans of your work, and we wrote this script. And he actually invited us inside. He had every reason to ignore us, and even if it was on a polite level, he could have said, okay, boys, contact my agent, but he was just so gracious. He invited us in, sat and talked with us for about 15 minutes, took the script, and that's how it all started.
Oh.
The movie is also called The Descendant, I believe, in some places, but you will find it as From a Whisper to a Scream, and I watched this on Tubi, I believe. Tubi is killing it with their horror selection.
Man.
Yeah, they are.
That's interesting. Is Tubi a paid subscription?
No, it is not, but you have to sit through advertisements.
It has commercial, but I've also noticed sometimes they seem to get it where it's like the beginning of the movie, the commercial is kind of long.
Yeah.
But by the end, it's actually like one commercial. They let the suspense thing. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
They also seem to have someone who watches and says, oh, this would be a good spot for a commercial. Because for me, at least, the commercials happen at the end of each of these segments. Oh, wow. And I was just like, all right, bathroom break.
Nice.
That is how it's done.
Oh, perfect.
Vanessa, you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I saw a movie that I have never seen before called The Abominable Dr. Phibes.
What lovely music for a murder, or 2, or 3, or 9. Who's this? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet a dear friend. 9 killed you. 9 shall die.
Your wife, no, Phibes. But you I will kill.
But you can't, Doctor. I am already dead.
Here, how are we going to get him off this? You take his head, and I'll take his feet. Let's unscrew him.
Dr. Vibes, who samples the finer things of life in his own inimitable way, and experiments with fascinating instruments of death.
The what, sir? The guitar. The 10 curses visited upon the pharaohs before Exodus.
9 shall die, 9 eternities in doom.
The curse of boils, of bats.
Frogs?
Frogs, yes. And the curse of blood. Curse of hail in the bloody middle of nowhere.
Are you ready for Dr. Vibes?
From 1971.
You sure about that?
I'm sure that I have not seen this movie before, despite other people claiming I have. This has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 88% from critics and 75% from audience. Budget of ? Box office of $1.5 million. Directed by Mr. Robert Fust, who has 24 credits to his name, including The Devil's Reign, 7 episodes of the Avengers TV show, The Soon in the Darkness, Wuthering Heights, and Revenge of the Stepford Wives, which I did not know how to sequel. There are 2 writers on this. They are really unknowns. One guy did a couple of TV episodes for A Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, James Whitten. And then William Goldstein has 3 credits, including Dr. Vibes Rises Again. So it's just not well-known people behind the script. But it is starring Mr. Vincent Price from such greats as 211 Things, like Invisible Man Returns, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, 10 Commandments, House on Haunted Hill, House of Wax, 130 episodes of Hilarious House of Frightenstein, which I do not know what is, but he was very committed.
Funny.
Joseph Cotton as Dr. Visalis. He has 134 credits, including Citizen Kane, The Third Man, Soylent Green, Gaslight, and The Magnificent Ambersons. And Virginia North as Vinavia. She only has 6 credits, but she's pretty awesome in this. I wish she had been in more. She was in Deadlier Than Mal. I think I mistyped that one. Long Duel on Her Majesty's Secret Service. She's great. The story is
Yes.
We start on an unbelievably elaborate scene of a shiny robed figure, as in like wearing a garbage bag that looks very shiny, is playing a lit up organ with lots of red lights that pops up out of the ground. Next to him, on either side, is an orchestra with, on the drum set, it says Dr. Vibes Clockwork Wizards, and they begin to a play. And they are clearly a bunch of animatronics or men dressed up to look like animatronics, as it actually is. A woman appears in the doorway blazing with white light, and her and Vibes begin to dance to strange tunes. Then they elaborately go beneath the dance floor to retrieve a velvet cage and take the velvet cage into a car that is underground, and it is painted with Dr. Vibes' younger image of himself on all sides, so it looks like maybe there's somebody in the car, but obviously not because it's an illustration. And we then cut to a man in a nice cozy bed with a little lit fire, and the roof opens, and that cage is lowered in. We then see it risen back up, and the cloth is now off it, and the bottom is open. The window is then closed, and the man wakes up to these really large, really adorable bats crawling up his bedspread. They're so cute. He thrashes about and is bitten a zillion times, apparently off camera, because we see him normal and we see him with bites. This is the beginning. Dr. Fives is a famous organist. His wife died tragically years ago when he was away in Switzerland. He blames the 9 people who worked on her in her final moments of life and swears revenge against them. And with the help of a gorgeous, mysterious assistant, decides to attack each one with a plague of Egypt, loosely interpreted and elaborately performed. The film follows a crew of detectives who follow behind the bizarre and elaborate deaths, such as sugar melted and poured on somebody's face, or gooey sugar kind of stuff. And then locusts released and that person's face is eaten off to the skull. A man killed by a catapulted unicorn statue and then unscrewed from the wall. Not the statue, he is. It's insane. Dr. Fibes manages to get to the very last plague, where he has a sort of battle of wits and time against the head surgeon, who was like, hey, I did really just try to save your wife. We all did. I don't know why you're trying to kill us. And he's like, revenge. So I guess that's fine. But apparently Fives does not fear for anything, because he is technically dead himself. This is not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. And he has a skull for a face with no skin, but that's fine because, he has wax that he puts on it and that works great. I don't understand that part at all, but that's okay. Thoughts. This is extremely similar to Theater of Blood for goofy revenge deaths. It's so silly. It's got that same London vibe as well. It's fairly funny. The unicorn death was great. There's a lot of just really weird, funny moments. One guy's like, Inspector, where are you? And the guy's like, I'm just right here, sir. And he's on top of the wardrobe, and the camera pans up, and it's just weirdly funny. I don't know why. You're just okay. But anyway, the animals in this that are used to kill people are all adorable. Oh my God. You've never seen such cute animals. The only one I had a little bit of PTSD for was the bat, just because the guy wakes up to flapping and seeing things around in the corner of his eye. And then it's making squeaky sounds, and then you see it, crawl up his thing. And I was like, bats, it's real. You should fear them. I wish they explained who the hell the girl was who was assisting him, unless I missed it in a 1-second fragment. I have no fucking clue who this lady was or why she was helping him. I was like, did he concoct a daughter? It was because she looks a little like his wife. It makes no sense. Also, the main lead head surgeon guy has a son who's irritating enough as it is, but for some reason they ADR his voice with a man doing a kid's voice.
Oh, no.
It is weird and off-putting. Father, let's play some chess, Daddy. And you're like, oh my God, no. Fucking child stop. Trivia. This was not available to stream anywhere. I think there's some kind of rights issues. However, you can find it on YouTube very easily for free, and it's in HD. So,
wow.
Yeah, it would look glorious. I was like, fuck, all right, I'm good to go. Joseph Cotton, who played opposite Vincent Price, would grumble that on the film set that he had to remember and deliver lines, while Vincent Price's lines were all post-dubbed. Price responded, yes, but I still know them, Joe. In fact, Price was well known in Hollywood for his ability to memorize all of the characters' lines in a given production, not just his own. For the many scenes in the film in which Vincent Price was required to speak without moving his mouth, he was painted with a substance called collodion, which literally immobilized his face. However, he was also constantly laughing, so he kept breaking his molds and fucking up the makeup. Vincent Price and Joseph Cotton were very uncomfortable doing his scenes, so Joseph Cotton was very uncomfortable doing scenes. So Vincent Price made a lot of funny faces to make him laugh. In order to gain more publicity for the film, it was advertised as Vincent Price's 100th film, and the vampire bats which they weren't vampire bats, they were just bats, were really flying foxes, a very docile fruit-eating bat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are adorable, too.
They were so cute. And they weren't flying at all in the film. They were just crawling up him. And I was like, oh my God, they're so cuddly.
Come on up, Beto.
Come on up, let's snuggle. The rats were cute. Even the locusts were when they're in this tube, you're like, oh, buds, how's it going? They're just happy little cricket guys.
Now, what you were referring to was I was sure that you had talked about this film on an earlier episode, and now you mentioned Theater of Blood, and I realized that it must have been you talking about this film also, but you hadn't seen this film.
I think what might have happened is there were people in the cast and crew who were on.
Or in both.
Okay, or maybe
Fibes.
something in the trivia that
And I was calling it Fibes instead of Phoebes. Phoebes. Which is a joke in the film. So now I feel very justified because multiple people mispronounce it, and the detective's like, it's Phoebes. So it's like, yeah, that's right. It's fine to not pronounce it correctly.
Well, I apologize for screaming at you over text. I did write in all capitals.
You did.
And I only brought it up because you pointed out on the website or on our Facebook page that I had already done a movie that I did again this last time. And nobody else pointed it out except for you. It would have been fine.
I mean, we've mentioned it. We've mentioned it publicly at least once, possibly just online, but still we've made people aware that in case they were feeling like deja vu, which I definitely was when you were describing the film. I was like, for some reason I thought you'd done a different Chucky, and no, it's that Chucky, and oh my God. I mean, it was a really riveting storytelling that you gave us.
Let's not live in the past, Vanessa.
You brought it up.
10 minutes are on the board for you, Eric.
So, I did another Vincent Price movie. Imagine that.
It was actually the assignment.
That's right. Witchfinder General, or The Conqueror Worm.
You will each be tied in a prescribed fashion and cast into the moat.
Only from the pen of Edgar Allan Poe could come such an horrendous tale of terror. The Conqueror Worm, starring Vincent Price in the most diabolic role of his career.
Look for the devil's marks upon him. Get on with your task.
The distorted genius of Poe creates poetic beauty from pain and uses idyllic love as a tool of torture.
Men sometimes have strange motives for the things they do.
I know.
You've got an accusation to make. I'll get your confession for you. I'm husband to Sarah Lowe's. He's a man who's out to kill both of us.
And it appears to me that we should take steps to see to his death first.
Leave the children at home. And if you're squeamish, stay home with them.
I shall kill you.
Please, leave the children at home.
I've never seen this.
Witchfinder General's great title, fits it completely. The Conqueror Worm is just an Edgar Allan Poe poem that really has nothing to do with this. So, you know how it was. Released in 1968, so that explains a lot. This one also had an 88 from the critics, but a 66 from the crowd, which I guess maybe a little low, but budget about $175,000. It made either $1.5 million in the U.S. or, according to Benjamin Halligan, the writer of Michael Reeves' biography, $10 million.
Wow.
So the director was, this was Screen Factory's box of like a collection of Vincent Price stuff, which also has your movie on it. And it's also on YouTube. I could not find any place else it was. This is directed by Michael Reeves, who also directed The Sorcerers, She-Beast. This was the last film he directed. Written by Tom Baker, not the same, not that Tom Baker. He also wrote The Sorcerers. Michael Reeves was one of the other directors. He also wrote the Oblong Box, the 3 films he directed. And with a nice symmetry, his final film script was Crescendo. Louis M. Hayward also wrote on it. He wrote Pajama Party, Planet of the Vampires, Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine, The Wild Weird World of Dr. Goldfoot, and Dr. Goldfoot, The Girl Bombs.
All Vincent Price movies. Dr. Goldfoot movies.
Worked with him a lot. Vincent Price, who was in The Wild Weird who is, let's see, he's also in a wonderful episode of The Muppet Show.
Of course.
True.
Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Jackson's Thriller video.
The Great Mouse Detective.
Great Mouse Detective. Also in the movie was Ian Ogilvy, who is Death Becomes Her, I, Claudius, The Sorcerers, The Day the Fish Came Out, Puppet Master 5, tons of TV, and No Sex Please, We're British.
Excellent.
But he has 113 credits overall, so quite a bit. Rupert Davis was in the movie Zeppelin, The Oblong Box, Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, 5 Golden Dragons. And finally got a Hilary Harth, who's in Wuthering Heights, The Oblong Box, and Space 1999.
The hell is this Oblong Box?
It's a Vincent Price film.
Box.
Yes.
Kind of oblong.
Gathered.
That's right. So the movie, of course, starts with the hanging of a witch. And it's brutal because the woman screaming is just incessant. It's like, God, this is kind of hard to watch. The narrator then explains that this was a time of near lawlessness and strong superstition, where people were punished and killed on a whim. The exposition here is just great. Just let's explain everything you need to know as the soldiers ride their horses down the street to tell you about they're in a civil war and all this stuff's going on. And here's where we meet the dashing young hero who kills a man attacking his superior officer, thus getting himself 2 days off.
Nice.
To go visit the uncle of the woman he wants to marry and gets his blessing to marry her at that point. After that, we go and we meet Vincent Price, who is in a wonderfully amazing outfit, just colorful and decadent, just awesome, and has a conversation with his traveling companion who lays out what he thinks of the Witchfinder's job, which that it is basically pure bullshit and all for profit. Well, of course, Vincent's over there saying, no, this is all about the god, and we're this. He's like, yeah, well, whatever. How much you get paid for each witch you get rid of? It's like, this is awesome scene. The Witchfinder, though, is coming for the uncle because he's apparently a priest who is a witch. You know, with all the evidence you usually expect in something like this.
Sure. He floats.
Yes. And of course, Vincent ends up sleeping with the niece, who's the soldier's fiance, while he's away at war. And Vince actually kept his word and keeps the uncle in jail instead of torturing him. But this is a damn dark movie. So to follow that up, the torturer that travels with the Witchfinder rapes the woman.
Oh, God.
And when the Witchfinder finds that out, instead of punishing the torturer, he goes to the woman and starts punishing her uncle for the infraction of the man raping his niece.
Oh, my God.
Like, oh, God damn. The hero, upon learning of the Witchfinder's actions, returns to marry his love and vow revenge against those that wronged her. It's pretty good. This is an incredibly dark and vicious film. From 1645 to 1647, a man named Matthew Hopkins traveled with John Sternay, the east of England, as the witch hunters, basically the guys representing this movie. And Hopkins wrote a book, The Discovery of the Witches, and in one of the illustrations, he was labeled the Witchfinder General.
Okay.
That's where the all came from. It was required by law during the filmmaking that the British film production would review scripts before they went into production. Well, they sent this one into the British Board of Film Censors and received on the same day a preliminary report that basically said, this is perfectly beastly and ghoulish. So they sent it back. He had to rewrite it again, and they got a study in sadism in which every detail of cruelty and suffering is lovingly dwelt on.
Wow.
So you had to write it again, and eventually got something that would work. So they're able to shoot the movie. the role was a great challenge for Vincent because him and Reeves did not get along at all. He had no idea what the director wanted, but despite that, by the time the movie was done and he saw it, he thought it was one of the best performances he's ever given. He is really good in this movie. The co-actor observed that the director's mastery of the technical aspects is absolute, but Mike never directs actors. He always said he knew nothing about acting and preferred to leave it up to us. Like one time he was giving a direction to Vince, like, don't move your head that way. And Vince like, what way? There, you're doing it again. Don't do that.
Oh, no.
The production was relatively smooth, except for the antagonism between those two. Reeves told everyone that he did not want him for the role, and which Vincent found out about. And when he arrived on location, the director told him, I didn't want you, I still don't want you, but I'm stuck with you.
Oh.
That is the way to foster a good relationship in your film.
Day one.
Shit. In one scene, Reeves needed Bryce to shoot his flintlock pistol between the ears of a horse. And Vince is like, you're giving me a gun with blanks in it to do this? You know what's going to happen. He's like, do it. I don't care.
Oh, my God.
So Vince shot it. The horse reared up, knocked him off of the horse. Luckily, Vince was not injured. But of course, he was supremely pissed off about getting thrown from the horse when he knew exactly that's what's going to happen. The lead actress in this was her first feature film, and she thought it was just wonderful. Thought it was inspiring, really inspiring to work with. And because it was my first film, I didn't know how lucky I was. She made several AIP horror films, a lot of them with Vincent Price. Before leaving in 1970 to become a film producer.
Oh, cool.
One reviewer said one of the most personal and mature statements in the history of British cinema. Few fictionalized portrayals of the English Civil War feature serious, positive depiction of the New Model Army and the good old cause. Most are about Cromwell. The Tiggins, The Blood on Satan's Claw was produced as a successor to The Witchfinder General, which we've talked about on the show. Another very good film, including folk horror, which he grouped with The Wicker Man, of course.
Yeah, dude.
Many critics believe that Ken Russell's The Devils must have been influenced by this. One of the worst movies I have ever seen, and certainly the most nauseous. So he did not copy this film, according to him, which I don't think he did. Having seen the two films, I do not see. The relationship.
Because you've got people hunting witches. No, that's a copy of a film.
Yeah, no, not in any similar way whatsoever.
In which case, Monty Python's really have some similarities to Witchfinder and...
Well, you've just cemented with me that I need to watch this movie.
It's very good. Yeah. It is definitely one of Vincent's better roles. He's not a cartoonish villain, and he's not a borderline anti-hero kind of character. He is an asshole who doesn't care what he's doing, but knows exactly what he's doing.
Fantastic. I'm going to look for this tonight. Okay, this is the part where I thank everybody for liking and sharing posts, for participating in the value for value model, which is if you get any value out of this, go ahead and give it back, either with your time or your treasure. We do like it when you send us money. Mm-hmm. You can also send us a voicemail through the Strange Aeons Radio hotline, which is 253-237-4266. You know, if somebody were to leave us a message there and give us a good suggestion for a topic, I might not be opposed to that.
Yeah, I like that.
So, okay, I think that is it, except that, Vanessa, you have to tell us what we're talking about next week.
Absolutely. Well, since I've been so immersed in this content like the Supernova in the East and watching Oppenheimer, I propose that we find a genre pick from a war.
A specific war? Or
just war.
War.
War has to be happening.
Right. But some kind of a tie to what we normally talk about, genre-wise.
Yeah. So it can be horror, it can be sci-fi, but it's got to be genre.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that spring immediately to mind, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know Eric wants to do all of the Puppet Master movies as part of his 100 Days of Horror, so...
Did that last year.
Oh, shit.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Why
You
do
know
you
what?
do
More
this?
entertaining overall than Children of the Corn.
Well, I like this idea very much, and I can't wait to get researching. Okay, guys, I think that's it. We're going to be back in 7 short days. We are talking war is hell, war is horror, the horrors of war.
The horrors
there we
of
go.
war.
There we go. All right, see you next Thursday.
Transportation and other considerations for Strange Aeons Radio produced by Pan Am Airlines. When you think of traveling, think of Pan Am. You can't beat the experience. Guests of Strange Aeons Radio stay at Econo Lodge Everett. It's an easy stop on the road, you know what we mean. Strange Aeons Radio is recorded live in front of a studio audience. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a positive review on your favorite podcast app. Sit, Ubu, sit.
The animals in this that are used to kill people are all adorable.